the team and I decided that it was time to bring some American muscle into drifting. I started pounding on Ford's door and really didn't get the door cracked open for 2 years. We still have our finger on the pulse of what's cool. And I think that, you know, I've grown a reputation inside of Ford as someone that's passionate and wants Ford to win.
Like, you were the first one to get into drift and say it's not going to be a Datsun or a Nissan. It's not going to be something Japanese. Instead, you were the first one to say, I'm going to do this with a Mustang. So how is the relationship now that you're 10 years on, 12 years on with Ford? How has that evolved?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for everyone to know, and I started off with a Nissan. I was not a Mustang guy.
Yeah.
And then when Ford debuted the '05 Mustang, literally that's my first Mustang right there. I mean, that's the one.
Well, when I walked in, I was like, it's like being reunited.
Yeah. And so in '05, we bought that Mustang for $5,000 over sticker. And I had never driven a Mustang. We wanted that because Ford had debuted the remember the GTR concept? It was like an orange. I was like, oh, it's so sick. It's the first Mustang that really engaged me. And once I drove that car for the first time, I was like, what have I been missing? Like, I've been missing torque and like just this experience of driving this car. It's like, it's sick. Why did I discount it? And, you know, later on, after some self-reflection, I realized I was just being a teenager, just rebelling against like what my dad thought was cool and stuff like that. And so anyway, once I started competing, you know, once the team and I decided that it was time to bring some American muscle into drifting, I started pounding on Ford's door and really didn't get the door cracked open for 2 years. And in 2007, you know, started a small relationship with Ford. 2010, got my first contract with them. And
Now, I got to interject for a minute because not everybody saw the first Inside the MotoMan studio. He was the IT guy that would go and knock on your door and say, I'm here to fix your computer. Like, that was this guy. And on the weekends, he would take his personal Datsun,
Nissan. Yeah.
and you would go to like Englishtown, New Jersey with tires in the back seat, and you would drift and go back and be fixing computers.
Yeah, I would actually leave work on Wednesday, stop at my house. I lived in Maryland, worked in Virginia, stop at my house on the way to New Jersey, load up with tires, drive up Wednesday night, drift, drive home Wednesday night, and go to work Thursday morning.
So go back and watch that episode, but I just want to make sure if you haven't seen it, know the trajectory we're talking about.
Yeah. We've just got a fantastic relationship with Ford. You know, I work with, you know, Ford's a very big company, you know, so I have my, you know, motorsport relationship is with Ford Performance. And I do a lot of work with the brand teams, specifically the Bronco, F-150, and Mustang teams. And, you know, I think they look at us as somebody that understands these tough to reach markets, because I am that. It's my market, it's my generation, you know, and a lot of, you know, the people that work here on the team, you know, their generation, you know, we're a younger group, if you will. And I know I'm getting old, but we still have our finger on the pulse of what's cool. And I think that, you know, I've grown a reputation inside of Ford as someone that's passionate and wants Ford to win. You know, I've been there since 2007, 2008, when it was $1, you know.
It's like when you and I first met, you were just Mustang. And then after our Inside the MotoMan studios, when you started doing that pickup truck, you did the
Ultimate Fun Ever.
Yeah, that was badass. But now they've obviously Ford, as you know, I'm not a huge Ford guy.
Yeah.
But I have respect for them as a business because they've been very focused and they've gotten into individual silos of business and are wildly successful in each individual silo. Was it something that you came up with and said, hey, Bronco team, I want to work with you? Or did the Bronco team organically say, we got to work with this guy, Vaughn?
Well, I was racing a Bronco in Ultra 4.
So it was an act, but did they come to you or do you go to them?
Well, there's a little bit of both. I mean, you know, the one thing that's been challenging, you know, I'm known as the drift guy in the Mustang, but I also partnered up with, you know, one of the biggest names in off-road, Lauren Healy. So when they were starting to think about what to do with new Bronco, I was very vocal and told them we wanted in and we're the guys. Like who else are you going to put against us? It was just kind of like,
Yeah.
you know,
Was it a harder pitch when you went to them with the Fun Haver?
to build that F-150.
Is that
No,
15 you did that?
that was 2014, and that's what kind of launched my mindset as a professional fun haver.
Oh.
That vehicle was a result of a reevaluation of where I was going with my career. And that was my first kind of like straddle of on road, off road. Hey, I'm here to have fun. I like to jump. I like to drift. I like to cruise the twisties too. And so the ultimate fun haver was kind of like my first foray outside of drift, but like I still kind of brought my core with me because I had a handbrake and it drifted amazingly. So once the success of that, it was also a great case study to say, hey, when I do things outside of a Mustang, it's still people are still interested. It's still fun, and I think it's more for me. I always felt, or I thought that it was more about just the vibe, not necessarily about what I was doing. I felt that I could make anything fun and people just need and want fun. And so that's what I made my brand. My personal brand is as a professional fun haver, is fun. And then obviously we launched the company, which we haven't mentioned, Fun Haver, which is, a brand around that mindset of just finding the fun.
If you enjoyed this content, please like the video and consider subscribing to see even more content like this. And to listen to or watch the full podcast version of this episode, search MotoManTV Podcast in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the video description below. We have all new episodes each Wednesday. Thanks for watching.